What the heck? Something's broken. Try the mother switch. Do it, do it.
Wow.
Hold on. Oh yeah. Are we on grid now?
Heck yes, baby. We definitely need to make a second cup, because I'm not sharing this.
Can I have some? Man, I do miss frothed milk. Did you hear the espresso maker and you came running?
He took the bait. He took the bait. Bugaboo, are you glad we have the espresso machine back? Place your bets. How much power did we use?
Do you think it says 00001 yet? I doubt it.
You really? You think it still says 0?
Yeah, I think it says 0 because it's 1 kilowatt. That's 1,000 watts for an hour.
Haha! Free coffee!
Free coffee!
Alright guys, all jokes and coffee aside, coffee is not why we hooked up to grid power. As good as it is, we would not hook to grid power alone.
It's a little cheesy.
In fact, we did an entire video on why we decided to go on grid after living off grid for 3 years. It's a great video, no need to remake it. Give it a watch. We'll link to it in the corner of this video for you desktop people. But we can say that after being off grid for 3 years, we really understand what it's gonna do for us and how off grid was holding us back. So specifically, we wanna address those things on how having grid power is gonna help us today.
Yeah, the truth is,
real tangible benefits.
Someone out there watching this is thinking you could have made that cup of coffee off your solar, and that's actually true. We don't need to be tied to grid power to make an espresso. We just don't have room for the espresso maker in the RV.
That's true.
That's why we've not made espresso for 3 years, because if we could, we would have, trust me. Speaking of which, it's time to take a look at the battery hydration. So we have spent a cumulative, ridiculous amount of hours underneath this battery box. A lot of it because of decisions that we made early on with our solar setup. Needless to say, you have to maintain your battery bank when you're off grid. It is your power source. The truth is, when you're off grid, you're actually battery powered. And the solar is what charges the batteries. And that was kind of something that we had to come to a realization to as we lived with this technology. Not having to keep these batteries hydrated kind of leads into a point we'll make in a minute about freedom, but it also comes back to time. When we came here, we had a lot of time, and financially we were very tight. So we were willing to commit that time. But as our life continues, we think about building a family and finishing our house. We don't have a lot of time. It seems like we don't have any time. And it's not uncommon for us to go several weeks and not even check on the batteries. And then we're like, oh, I forgot to check on the batteries. So not having to babysit a set of batteries and do all the conditioning and all of the equalizing and hydrating and balancing and all those things is going to be better for us because of the commitment to time. Are there battery technologies out there that don't require this stuff? Yes, but all batteries require some level of upkeep, or they have a life cycle. And if you want to talk about some serious money, let's talk about batteries.
I think from my perspective, what time means is you have to know where your battery bank is at all time. You have to know what the sun is doing. So when we're building a house and we're running all these tools, you have to think, oh, do I run that off the solar? Do I run it off the battery bank? Okay, I'll just run it off the generator. Oh, the generator's out of gas. Oh, the generator isn't starting. Oh, the generator can't handle this load. Let me try that generator. Oh, that generator's out of gas. So living with solar and batteries to us has been just very time consuming because we're having to spend a lot of time not building our house.
So in a nutshell, we've learned a lesson the last 3 years. We've learned the value of our time. And right now in our life, we're very, very busy. So we're looking forward to getting that time back and investing it in other ways. Time, 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 time. Money, 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 time.
My parents just called. They rented a condo for an entire week and they invited us to come stay with them. You want to go?
Heck yeah. Wait, no, we can't.
Why?
Because we don't We don't have anybody who can take care of the batteries and the solar and stuff. What if it's cloudy
It'll be fine. It's gonna be sunny. It's summer.
Well, how do you know?
That's what the forecast says.
Yeah, but what if the batteries die and then our inverter shuts off and our freezer shuts off and all of our food goes bad? That's really happened to us more than once. We have limited our life the last 3 years to day trips and maybe an overnight trip because we don't have anybody who understands how to take care of the batteries and the inverters and the charge controllers and the generator and when to turn them off and what happens if they malfunction and all this stuff. And we're really excited to be able to leave the house and not really have to worry about all of this technology, or more importantly, maybe just have somebody who can stay at the house and make sure things are running the way they should be, meaning the power grid's on. So over winter, we know several households, I'll say 2, who have solar and they're off grid, and they're out of town and their trip got delayed for whatever reason. They weren't able to get home, and suddenly their house is having freeze up issues because their power system's not on and the snow was covering their panels. So somebody had to go dig all that stuff out and put fuel in their generator and deal with all this stuff. And that's just not something that fits our life right now. And so we're kind of trying to shape the life that we want instead of kind of being silly. So that brings us to this beast. This beautiful home actually was probably the #1 reason we decided to tie to the grid. When we designed the home, we had every intention of staying off grid. If you folks have been following us for a while, you know that we actually planned to build a house when we first got here 3 years ago. And once we felt how hot the property was, we scrapped that house design because it was a freestanding structure. And we were worried that it would not be able to stay cool during the summer months and that heating it during the winter months would take too much energy. So we scrapped it, and that's where this house came from. We decided to build into the earth. We decided to build with SIPs and do a lot of other energy efficient things. Unfortunately, as that design came to life and we spent another 2 years with solar, we began to realize the limitations of solar. And we looked at the cost of powering this home traditionally, not conservatively, traditionally, so that if we ever wanted to sell the house, we could. And we said, holy smokes, that's going to be a really big commitment to do off-grid. When we were planning the design of the house, one of the considerations was, or 3 of the considerations were power, what's going to turn the lights on, what's going to run the internet, how are we going to charge our phones, laptops, lamps, televisions, whatever. We thought we can do that off grid. That's something we feel like we can do. In fact, in the house design, we gave ourselves a pretty generous utility room in the basement, and part of the reason for that was a battery bank. We wanted to make sure we had room for that. Well, the conversation kind of got down the road a little ways, and we started talking about heat, we started talking about cooking, we started talking about hot water. And a trend that we have noticed with folks who live off grid and who have homes is they use propane. They use a lot of propane. We use a lot of propane. Even though we're off grid. We thought, you know what? Gosh, if we're gonna go this route and we're gonna build this energy efficient home, do we want to have a propane tank outside either as a primary heat source and hot water source or as a backup? We still do have this idea that we want to have a wood boiler. I think that's something that makes sense for us. There's technology out there that makes them fairly low maintenance, low upkeep, and wood is an abundant resource for us, and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, we've got 15 cords of firewood over there from the timber frame.
But we also want the option to leave for a month and just flip a switch and our house isn't going to freeze, which
Bingo.
goes back to freedom.
So we've talked about, you know, what do we want to do for hot water? We've got hydronic. We wanted to power the house, obviously. Security, internet, all these things. The conclusion we came to was that a single source of energy made a lot of sense for us instead of having a numerous plethora of different energy sources, because the fact of the matter is propane is no different than being tied to the electrical grid. The difference is you have to go get it, and you have to go get it, and you have to go get it, and you have to go get it. And that brings us back to the time conversation about how much time it takes. We call it the off-grid shuffle. When we go to town and we spend the entire day in town getting water, propane, generator fuel, doing laundry, doing all the things that we do in town because we can't do them at home. So it wasn't fitting our life. So when we started to look at the house, we realized that having a single non-combustion energy source was important. If we want to talk about fuel, these combustive energy sources require fresh air, and they also create moisture. Two things that we want to work on controlling in the house to keep the efficiency high. That's a whole nother conversation. But that's kind of in a nutshell the big push when we started looking at the house and realizing this doesn't make any sense. We need to rethink our strategy.
Being tied to the grid opens up some doors immediately for us. I'll speak in terms of cooking and food preservation. We work long, hard hours, and it sounds really appealing to me to just stick food in the crock pot in the morning and at night we have a hot meal. But because we don't know if we're gonna have sun all day, or maybe it's cloudy, or we don't know if we're running the generator all day, most of the time we don't, that's not an option. So that means I have to cook at dinner time. We also, because we're living in our RV, our refrigerator space is extremely limited. Maybe we can hold 3 days of food in there, and we eat a lot of fresh food. So we've talked about getting a full-size refrigerator and sticking it in the garage. Then we can have a lot more food on hand, reducing our trips to town. And we also, if we have a full-size refrigerator with a freezer in it, we can store more food. We do have the opportunity to get a lot of food and store it, and we don't always have time to can it, but our freezer space is limited as well because we designed that freezer to work with our battery bank, so we didn't want anything too big. So those are some of the things that we're both really excited about. Let's go in the garage, it's hot.
It is hot. Hold on, let me get my coffee. Ever since we arrived to our property and have been building this thing, I wonder if maybe we just haven't fully embraced the sustainable energy lifestyle. The problem seems to be that people who use alternative energy kind of have to revolve their life around the energy instead of the other way around. And I don't know about you guys, but we tend to be outside doing work all day during the daylight hours, and then we come inside at night. It's kind of just how our life works. So maybe we are not as adaptive as we thought we were, but the fact of the matter remains we need this to fit our life. So we're not going to go inside and do laundry and catch up on the dishes and iron and do all this stuff because it's really sunny outside and we've got a lot of free solar. We're gonna be outside working.
Because of that, we've been going in our RV at night and we're charging MacBooks and we're running the lights and we're running the fans to get all the moisture out of the RV. And if we're not paying attention, or we don't put enough fuel in the generator before we go to bed and turn the generator on, frequently we'll wake up to dead batteries in the middle of the night, which partially has to do with our dwindling battery system. There's more to that story. But we don't want to think about that. Our sleep is so precious. We're such busy, productive people that we can't afford to ever really be woken up at 3 a.m. to go fuel up the generator to keep our batteries like topped off. So we're really excited to get that time back and improve our sleep. Something that's important to us living on a rural property, especially when we're building a house and we're very exposed, we've been exposed for 3 years, is that peace of mind when we're not here. We have the ability from our phones to see what's going on our property with cameras and stuff, but it relies on an internet connection, and that internet connection relies on power. So if our battery bank is dead and our inverter shuts off, we don't have the ability to see what's going on our property anymore or be notified if anything weird's going on. So I think having, for us, grid power, or at least a system big enough to take care of those needs, that your power isn't going to go off when you're home, that's really important to us because it allows us to be happier, more relaxed when we're gone, not worried about what's potentially happening at home.
It's been an adjustment for us as we moved from the city to more of a country setting, and security is something that you have to think about, especially when you have a valuable piece of property, you have valuable tools, you're building a home. You feel very vulnerable, and it's good to have that peace of mind that Alyssa was talking about. Our security system gives that to us, but if our battery bank is finicky and it shuts off because there's no sun for 2 days, well, there you go. There goes that peace of mind. Why? Because of off-grid. I think we're looking forward to being more efficient with our power use, and what's weird is we actually metered all of our power for 2 months using these little things called kilowatts. Sort of kind of gave us an idea how much power we need for our household. We don't use very much power, and that's because we don't produce much. We monitored it. Turns out our power consumption's pretty low. The thing is, Sometimes we need a bunch of power, like running a compressor, for example, which we struggled with even during the timber frame. When Alyssa was trying to plane and I was trying to run a compressor to clean the sawmill, even our generator wouldn't run those pieces of equipment. Really? So what we do? We bought another generator, and it's even louder than the other one. So yesterday, I'm trying to put some staples in the garden, but I need to run the compressor. And I thought, well, it hasn't been very sunny today, so we're probably not going to be able to run it off the battery bank. I tried, flipped it on, boom. Battery bank shut off, inverter shut off. Alyssa was trying to edit video, so I had to go run the generator. But here's the thing about generators. From the moment the compressor shuts off until it turns back on, the generator's just sitting there running, and it's just burning gas. So basically, there's no power being produced. Whereas, seems obvious now that I mention it, if I'm plugged into the grid, I turn the compressor on, it uses power. When the compressor turns off, it's not using power anymore. So I have a hunch that our energy bill is going to be reduced by a lot.
Some things we don't do very often, like filter our hot tub. Because we have to turn the generator on, we have to run extension cords. It'd be really nice if we actually do have conduit up to the hot tub deck, so that we can have an outlet, and when we want to filter the hot tub, boom, just turn a switch on. You don't have to like do all this rigmarole. We're really excited for that. It'll probably mean the hot tub gets used more.
Well, I think that's pretty good. I mean, there's a million other reasons, but
you guys get the gist.
We don't need to beat
in
a
a
dead
nutshell,
horse.
We're excited. We're embracing power.
Yeah, and just a side point really quick, for the record, we have been connected to the power grid for
Two
months.
I don't even want to admit.
I think 2 months, and we haven't used it because we really haven't, I can't say that we haven't needed it, because we have. In fact, all of our neighbors are like, why aren't you using the power? And we're like, we're trying to be off grid. Like, we have solar, so why should we change our life now? But, okay, fine, we'll do it. Wait, isn't there one other thing?
This is the first time we've sat in front of our house together.
Where'd your coffee go?
It's gone.
So peaceful out here. Well, cheers to the next chapter of our lives. What happened there?
Ow. I was laughing too hard. It hurts. I got kombucha in my nose.
Oh, ouch.
I thought you were gonna push it. I didn't realize you had the remote in your hand.
Oh, well, at least we can laugh at it.
I'm crying right now.